If you remember, we synchronized them, we AI'd them about 28 days ago. Well, plus or minus, might be 30 now. And then the goal today is to teach you guys, demonstrate a method, the ultrasound, on how to preg check. And I'll just demonstrate that if anybody's dying to get in there. Charles, I'm sure you're dying to get in there. We'll let you do that. But the main thing is to demonstrate the cow manager and what it does and how effective it is, and then to demonstrate how to do the chute side blood sampling. Now, if you remember, when we started, we put the little cow manager tags in their ears. They're the orange tags when we go up there and run them through that sits in the ear. It has a pedometer in it, and it measures all kinds of activity. It measures, their rumination time, their eating time, their high activity time, their slow activity time, and it takes all that data and it churns it through these algorithms to give us an understanding of what that animal is doing on a day-to-day basis. Since we're down here, I don't know if you guys can see the phone. That is the activity charts that we get from Cow Manager. Okay, the red line, cattle move, and then they don't do. If you really pay attention, they don't do much. They graze, they ruminate. If they've got a calf, they'll nurse it. If they're in heat, they'll come in heat. But that is their day. And so these peaks of activity, they're walking around grazing, and then they slow down, walk around, graze, slow down. This really light blue bar at the top here, this is rumination. So that's the amount of time they're laying around chewing their cud. And so they take the changes in rumination and the changes in activity, and they calculate that dark blue line. Okay, so the dark blue line kind of goes like this, and then there one day it went up, right? Okay, that's the day she's either calving or she's in heat. Okay, well, since they're not calving, we know that that's the day that they were in heat. If we go all the way back to when we first bred them, okay, most of those heifers were in heat then. This heifer, this is 2233, I believe. Yeah, 2233. You'll notice that red bar goes up a little higher than the rest of the days. The light blue bar goes down, way down, compared to the rest of the days. So she didn't spend a ton of time chewing her cud. And then this dark blue bar goes up and it gets into that green. Okay? That's a really good sign that she's been in heat. A lot of times I like to see that blue bar way up here, but these cattle are in confinement, and so they're probably going to act a little bit differently than cattle that are out and about and grazing. But I'm going to guess that 2233 is not pregnant. The last data we got on her was this morning. Okay, and so she should be. That was on June 2nd. At about 8 o'clock in the morning, okay, plus or minus a little bit. And so she should be on in the first week of her estrus cycle. Reed, what was another one of them? 22 was 37, one of them? Yep. All right, let's look at 37. Okay, so red lines coming about every day. They get a little bit higher there with a little bit lower rumination, see that? And the blue lines kind of go up, but they don't come up in a sharp peak. I don't know what she is based upon that. To see how the red lines get a little higher here, the blue line goes down, and we get some slight increase here, but I'm going to guess that she's actually pregnant. To validate that, as they stay in that barn, what's going to happen? And see how that blue line stays low there most of the time? It'll just flatten out and it'll stay low. Okay, so 2233 we're pretty sure came in heat. 2237, not too sure about. 2238, 2239, 2240, 2241, 2242, 2243, 2244, 2245, 2246, 2247, 2248, 2249, 2250, 2251, 2252, 2253, 2254, 2255, 2256, 2257, 2258, 2259, 2260, 2261, 2262, 2263, 2264, 2265, 2266, 2267, 2268, 2269, 2270, 2271, 2272, 2273, 2274, 2275, 2276, 2277, 2278, 2279, 2280, 2281, 2282, 2283, 2284, 2285, 2286, 2287, 2288, 2289, 2290, 2291, 2292, 2293, 2294, 2295, 2296, 2297, 2298, 2299, 2200, 2201, 2202, 2203, 2204, 2205, 2206, 2207, 2208, 2209, 2210, 2211, 2212, 2213, 2214, 2215, 2216, 2217, 2218, 2219, 2220, 2221, 2222, 2223, 2224, 2225, 2226, 2227, 2228, Read 2272. What was it? You remember the day we bred them? May 9th. So May 9th will be on this side of that bar. All right. Unusual activity on May 21st. Definitely something going on there earlier this week. Yeah, June 5th. Okay. My guess is she held it for a little while and then lost it. What's after 2272?
2265.
Not very. Notice the activity differences in them. It's all the same. It's the same axis, but their red lines don't go up very far on her. Looks like she's probably pregnant. And she's just not very active. Yeah, I mean, those red lines on a lot of them were coming way up in here. But she's just not very active.
You'd assume she's bred.
Yep.
2260.
60. So we have this weird looking activity again on this 4th, 5th. That's not normal. I'm going to assume that based upon, because that's not typically what happens. If you work cattle or if something goes on, this picks it up. And that's not normal. So I'm going to assume she's pregnant too. There's something that happened because every one of them is showing unusual activity on the exact same day.
Construction work going on probably right there next to it.
All right, what about after 60?
22,112.
Same thing. Yeah. Whatever they were doing that day was bothering the heifers. So it looks like to me we're probably going to have 4 out of the 6 bred, because I think with them dumping that gravel down there, that's what's caught. Because see, on this one it's weird too. Okay, it should be like this most of the time.
Something spooked him.
Yep, something spooked him. When we first got this, we had a cow get separated from its calf, and she was going crazy, and we got a heat alert on it, and so we were able to use this to identify that. So I think we're going to end up with 4 out of 6 of them bred. So what that computer program does is it looks at changes. So if rumination's going down, you know, and activity's going up, or activity's going down, or whatever, it looks at how behavior's changing every day, and it cranks into these algorithms, and it gives us that blue line. Simple things that you don't think about that impact that. You know, if you run them into, if you run them into the corral from half a mile away, right, that's going to change their normal daily activity, and you're going to get a little blip in that blue line. If you change the ration, so down at Princeton, the cattle were 30 plus days pregnant, been verified pregnant. They moved them from a corn silage diet to a supplement that had a lot of distillers in it. Completely changed their rumination and their gut. And I got a heat alert on every single one of them. Okay, and so I called Blair, the farm manager down there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, run out. Because I didn't have any idea, right? None of them were in heat. But they changed the ration, that changed the rumination patterns, that changed, their gut was a little weird, right? And they were kind of hanging out. Had a really bad weather storm go through, cold spell go through, you know, tons of snow and rain. We've had this since 2018. The cattle were all hanging out. I got health alerts on a bunch of them. And I went and checked them, and they're all just sitting on the side of a hill freezing, you know. And just as soon as it warmed up, everything went right back to normal. For, you know, in the summer, what we're going to see is you'll see those red bars going up like this. All right. When they get hot, those red bars go like that. So they don't move nearly as much. They hang out more in the shade and whatnot. And so you can get a really good idea of the activity that's going on with those heifers. So that's one way that we're going to preg check them. The other way we're going to preg check them is with the ultrasound. With the ultrasound, what we do is we plug this into a computer. It sends electrical impulses down this cord. Those impulses go to this thing right here. There's thousands of little crystals in there, and it makes those crystals vibrate and creates a very high frequency or low frequency sound. And that sound shoots down into the tissue. Tissue will reflect that sound back, and those crystals will pick that up and then carries it back to the computer and creates a black and white picture. Fluid has no density, and so it reflects none of those sound waves back, and it's a black picture. Bone, muscle, all that reflects those sound waves back differently, so we get a black, white, and gray picture, with white being bone, so you'll be able to see the ribs, the vertebrae, the femur, all the bone structure of the animal. The skull is what we base a lot of our conception data on. The size of the calf, size of the diameter of the skull, diameter of the body. You'll be able to see skin tissue, everything. Skin and muscle are usually lighter gray. Bone is very white. We'll be coming in here at 30 days. And so what we'll see is you'll see fluid in a uterine horn about that much, and it's going to run down the length of the uterine horn. And so as I kind of pretend this is a knife, right? And so if that horn is coming out and kind of curling around, and I'm shooting across it, I could catch 2 or 3 different circles of it. So we'll see circles of black. And then as we scan through that, a 30-day-old calf will be about the size of the end of my pinky. At this stage, we can see the heartbeat if we take the time to do it. Okay? It doesn't take any training at all to be 100% at 30 days with the ultrasound. 100%. Then, of course, the key today is to learn how to do the blood sampling and to use the kits. The equipment you're going to need is a 3 to 5 cc syringe, an 18 gauge 3/4 to an inch needle, a purple topped blood tube, and you want them to be small. These are 3 cc'ers, and we want them to be small because we're going to take a pipette and stick it down in there and pull that blood out of there. Okay. What the purple top is there's EDTA coated on these tubes, and we put the blood in there and we're going to mix it. Don't do this because that creates a bunch of bubbles. Just mix it. I usually go about 8 or 10 times. Okay, and we need to mix it because the film that's used for the analysis is very sensitive to blood clotting, and this prevents blood clotting. All right, so you'll need that purple top tube. You'll need these. You need a paper towel. And then, of course, a kit. These are the Alerts shoot side preg testing kits from IDEX. They're simple.
Go ahead,
say it. 10-year-old can do it now, though.
10-year-old can do it, right? And one of my keys when these folks first sent this to me 4 or 5 years ago, we were helping Chad breed cows out at his place, and I figure, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to send them, and I'm not going to send instructions, Reed.
That's a good idea.
Okay, because if you're buying them, that's how you're doing it. All right. Well, there's pretty good instructions on there. All right, and so I just sent them to them, told them what to expect as far as the cartridge and the results go, and just said figure it out, and they figured it out. Okay, sent me a few pictures to verify because sometimes the red lines are faint. But if you see any level of a red line, then it's a pregnancy. The key to it is this cartridge. These cartridges are temperature and humidity sensitive, so you don't want to open that package up too much before you use it, and you don't want to store it sitting in your truck, burning up or freezing out. And they would really rather you not do them below 50 degrees. Today with the bright sun, you know, if we were outside and didn't have shade, we'd want to cover it because the sun will bleach that out a little bit. Okay. Pretty doggone simple thing to use. Again, you can just look at the packet and get the instructions off of it. Charles and Chad now are trained professionals, so you could always call them. First thing you're going to do is take this little pipette. After you draw the blood, you only really need a mil or two. You put it in that tube and you mix it up. Push the bulb into that down, stick it into the blood, and it's going to pull blood up to about there. Sometimes it'll come over into this reservoir, but it doesn't matter. You need that much. Okay? And if you just push that all the way down and let it go, it'll pull up exactly how much you need. Then, the only tricky part at all is when you get this cartridge, there are two holes. One of those two holes has got arrows pointing to it. The other one doesn't. Okay, so where do you think the blood goes?
In between the arrows.
In the arrows. So you dump the whole pipette full in that little hole that's got the arrows by it. It needs to be diluted a little bit more. See, this is just saline. Pop the top off, squirt 6 drops in there. You got the cow number written and the time of that you take the first one and the time you take the last one. So like today, we'll write the time on the first one, we'll write the time on the last one, and that way we know when we can start reading. Usually they pop up really quick in that 5 to 10 minute mark. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. The company says to give it at least 20 minutes. Easy, simple, so simple. Even Agent and Perry County can get it done. To take the blood sample from the tail, I actually have a pretty decent video on this on YouTube. Been viewed 100,000 times or something. But what you want to do is you want to pull the tail up. All right, now I've seen people try to take blood samples with the tail down like that, but that makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. But you can do it. I don't care. Blood's blood. Blood doesn't matter if it's coming from the jugular or the tail or whatever. Blood's blood. Okay. I pull it up where I can see it. I want to go straight up. Sometimes, you know, those tails like to twist a little bit. And what we're trying to do is to be perpendicular. And so if you're crooked, it's awful hard to get perpendicular. So come up. You'll see a ridge, and a valley. I mean, that is exactly what it looks like. A ridge, and a valley. That vein runs right in the bottom of that valley, about a 1/4 inch in. Okay? Ridge, valley. You'll also notice there'll be 2 bumps, and then up here 2 more bumps. All that is that I usually just use that. I'm going to go somewhere right in the middle of those, between those 4 bumps. Don't have to do that. The vein runs all the way up and down the tail. Okay? Ridge, and a valley. I'm going to go as perpendicular as I can to that tail. All right, that's not perpendicular. That's not perpendicular, but you can still get blood that way pretty easy. Side to side is what kills you. Okay, because you'll be sitting over here, and there's not a vein over to those sides. And it says here you can just draw back a little bit sometimes, and you'll pull it right into the vein. But if you just think about, you know, if this is the top of the vein, we're wanting to go right in the middle, puncture through it, and then pull back in. Okay, and so we'll pop through, pull back, draw our sample. You'll see it's really super simple. Last thing about preg checking. It is 100% legal for you to do your cows. It is illegal for you to do anybody else's cows. The only exceptions to that are if extension folks are training, and we have an official training program like today, we can do anybody's cows. But even if you're not getting paid for it, you can't do it. It's against the law. It's against KRS regulations. It's part of the Vet Practice Act. So if you get really good at taking blood samples, make sure that they're the ones that are reading the kits, because that's where the determination of pregnancy occurs, is there, not here. And it's not illegal to take a blood sample. It is illegal to use an ultrasound machine. So just to make sure, 100% legal on your cows. 100% not legal if you're doing it for somebody else. Questions before we go get them in and get going?
Oh, can a veterinarian, are they certifying sex of the calf now with ultrasound? Is that happening much?
I don't know about that. They can. Most people that use an ultrasound will fetal sex. I don't know about certify, but they'll tell you what their opinion is on it. You don't get a guarantee on it.
I know some of these purebred cells are saying that guaranteed the sex of the calf.
So when they do that, if it turns up the other way, they just swap you out or give you a credited sale. Yeah. Fetal sexing is super easy, and we can do that. I can't remember how long you're going to keep them. We can come back in 30 more days, and I mean, it really is. Fetal sexing is super easy. The biggest thing is to make sure you got shade so that you can see the screen. But anywhere between 65 days and 90 days, it's really very simple to do that. Reed, I think we're ready.
I think we're ready.
All right, so if I look on, I think 22-112 should be pregnant. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do the blood sample on her, and we'll run this first kit while we're waiting on the extension cord. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think she'll be pregnant. Okay, so first thing you need to do, get a paper towel, grab that needle and syringe. I always pop the plunger first, because it'll always be stuck down there a little bit. Okay, this is not sanitary or recommended place to store your needle. That would probably work as well, but I'm used to doing it here. So grab her tail, pull it straight up, wipe off the bottom of the tail. Okay, you got to bump, 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 ridge, ridge, valley. If you can't see the valley, you can certainly feel it. Okay, we want to go straight in, about a 1/4 inch. You'll feel it pop. It is easy. Don't need a ton. You really will feel it when you got it in the right spot. It'll feel like you're popping a balloon or something. It'll just pop in there. And you're only going in that far. Okay? We don't need a ton of blood. The other day can't remember where we were doing this, Reed, and they grabbed it and they started shaking it. I'm like, that just creates, it ruptures the red blood cells. It just creates issues you don't need.
Will it affect the efficacy of it or the accuracy of the test?
It really will. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing your blood samples, you're sending to Sandy, dependable livestock, same thing. Trying to do analysis of blood tissue. Okay, so then we'll pop the top off. Like Reed said coming over, most people don't realize the top of those things come off. Always label this, because sometimes the cartridge doesn't work and you don't have to take another blood sample. So we stick that down in there. See, if you have these small tubes, it's easy to handle. Put the whole thing in. Put the cap back on. One, two, three, four, five, six. Again, that's just to wash it down. All right.
Put the time on there, 9:26.
Yeah. Yeah, write the time on there. Because if you do the first one and the last one, then you know you could, if you start at 20 minutes after the last one. I mean, usually when we do this, we run all the cattle through, do this when we start sorting, and when, you know, while you're sorting, that last one gets done, and you got a pretty good idea when to do it. A couple of things about it. David asked on the way down, how soon can we test? The earliest is 28 days after conception. What I'm typically going to recommend for folks, if they're not trying to double AI, is to do it at weaning. And so if you're AIing May 10th and turning bulls out, you know, May 20th, and pulling bulls back out September 1st, and you're going to wean mid to late October. When you're weaning, just use the technology then, and get your pregnancy analysis determination at that time. The one of the reasons for that is the longer that pregnancy goes, the stronger that line gets. Sometimes in that under 70-day range, you get a really faint line. We'll get some faint lines today. And so that creates doubt, and doubt is not what we want. We want certainty. And that thing is very accurate. The doubt is in us. All right, the ultrasound. So what we're going to do now, it'll be pointed that way for people to see. It is a rectal palpation. Again, I'm going to be using that probe to scan down in to her tissue. I don't really like the bar, honestly. See that black circle? That's the pregnancy. Somebody point that out for me. There's the calf right there. See that little calf sitting in the middle of the black? Everybody see it? That quick, that easy, that dirty. It really is. At 30 days is the absolute easiest time to ultrasound. You never make a mistake.
Now, why does it become more difficult at 50 or 60? Because there's more
So
to look at.
open versus pregnant still stays 100%.
Yeah.
It's just after, when you get to 60, now you're trying to go, is it 60 or is it 40?
Right.
And then sometimes you get a crossways look on the calf and the head looks bigger than normal.
Right.
Okay. Or you just see a hoof and the hoof looks like a 90-dayer, but it was a 70-dayer.
Right.
Okay. And so
the subtle
at 30,
get harder to make.
Yeah. The next cycle back from 30 is 10. And you don't see 10.
Right.
And so you know 100% that it's 30 days or 31, Chad. And we know 100% she's pregnant. Now, there is a chance that she could lose that between now and really 45 days. There's a 5 to 10% chance that they'll lose them. But most of the time in this 30-plus day range, we're in great shape when it comes to pregnancy. And hopefully all three methods will verify that she's pregnant.
Is that it?
Good to go.
Good to go on this one?